Hey guys, this is Nick. Welcome to StrangeSpotting. Today, I'd like to talk to you about a creature shrouded in the mists of Native American folklore that has morphed, in recent times, into a cryptozoological possibility. The general public, whilst familiar with more popular figures like Bigfoot or chupacabras, is not aware of the name and general features attributed to this creature. I'm talking about none other than the Genoskwa, the stone giant of the Iroquois people's legends and mythology. If you have never heard about this monster before, buckle up, cause things are about to get creepy. I really hope you will enjoy this video as much, or even more, than I did making it. Fortunately, there is not as much material, whether academic or not, on Native American folklore as there is for other mythologies such as Greek and Celtic. Even among the different tribes, some have received less attention than others, and I would argue that the Iroquois belong to this group. I cannot theorize on the reasons for this neglect, but I'm sure the main one is not that their folklore is less attractive than others. The majority of these tribes' legends and stories can be found in a handful of books. I feel like I should recommend The Iroquois by Barbara Graymont, which belongs to a series individually focused on the history and customs of several tribes, and When the Chenoo Howls by Joseph and James Bruchac, a collection of tales not specific to Iroquois folklore, but that includes a story about a stone giant. The details about this creature are scant, to say the least. The legend tells of a malevolent race of giants called either Genoskwa or Otne-Yar-he, both translating roughly to stone giants or stone coats, whose bodies were made of stone. They waged war on the tribe, constantly raiding villages and capturing men, women and children, whom they would later feast on. It is said that their customary way of killing humans was to twist their heads up to decapitation. I am not sure about this, but I think a certain aspect of this legend became known through oral, not written reports. Apparently, the Iroquois knew that these giants were not really made of stone, but that they had devised a way to make their bodies impenetrable to arrows. They would spread tree sap on their skin, roll on sand and gravel, and repeat the process until they were indeed covered by a stone coat. It's very important to mention that while the Native Americans' reticence to share their tribal knowledge with outsiders is well known, those who gained their trust managed to access more information about specific legends and beliefs. And it is a generally consistent fact that while legends are a way to collect and pass on their knowledge from generation to generation, they often do believe in the real existence of creatures that those outside their society consider mere imagination. And the Iroquois make no exception. Anyone with even a passing interest in cryptozoology knows that, while the public eye remains mostly unconcerned, the number of people in the North American continent who report encountering giant bipedal creatures with physical and facial features between great apes and humans throughout the centuries is astounding. Actually, the rate of growth for that number has increased in the recent past. We will probably never know if this is because nowadays it is socially more acceptable to do so, or because the aforementioned creatures are growing in number and getting closer to human communities. Nevertheless, due to the great variance in eyewitness reports regarding anatomy and behavior, the idea that the millions of acres of wilderness in the US and Canada could harbor more than one species of undiscovered giant and hairy humanoid creatures has slowly gained traction in the so-called Bigfoot community. It is entirely possible that one day human society will look back and realize that those two monikers, the unsophisticated sounding Bigfoot and the more scholarly sounding Sasquatch, were only umbrella terms for a number of creatures with substantial evolutionary and genetic differences. As for the geographically diverse group of people invested in this subject that I consider myself a part of by now, the prevalent theory is that there are 4 categories of creatures, blandly labeled Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, and Type 4. These categories, of course, are just the result of an arbitrary choice based on the description provided by eyewitnesses and have no scientific relevance. I'll leave Type 2 and 4 to future videos, but suffice to say, while the typical image impressed in the public's subconscious by the Patterson-Gimlin film belongs to Type 1, the Type 3 category concerns a slightly bigger creature with a height ranging from 9 to 12 feet, a more aggressive behavior, a protruding snout similar to that of a baboon, and a carnivore-style dentition with big fangs instead of flat teeth. These sightings happen prevalently in the forests of the east side of the US and Canada. I suppose, in hindsight, it was just a matter of time before someone made the connection between these sightings and the legends of Native American tribes who have inhabited those same areas for a very long time. As a paranormal and cryptozoology enthusiast, I owe much of the information and material available to a handful of sources, some literary and some not. One of my greatest passions in the past few years has been listening to what is perhaps the most famous podcast show on the topic of Bigfoot, Sasquatch Chronicles, created and run by Wes Germer. I can't recommend that show enough if you want to know exactly from the witnesses what encountering one of these creatures feels like. It is through that podcast that I became acquainted with the prominent researcher and frequent host, Brian Sullivan, nicknamed The Duke. He also has a show and a YouTube channel called World Bigfoot Radio, which I also wholeheartedly recommend, and he collects reports and information of several different cryptids by talking to eyewitnesses, other researchers and enthusiasts, and by frequently going out into the wild. The reason why the Duke is important for the topic of this video is that, to my knowledge, he was the first to bring the Genoskwa into the spotlight and the first to make a startling connection after his first encounter. That story is his and his alone to tell, but I can say that what he came across had little resemblance to the patty creature from the PG footage. After being scarred for life by this encounter, he started going through all the information available and realized that what he saw matched very well the Iroquois myth of Genoskwa. He also realized that given the geographic proximity and overlap, as well as linguistic adjacency of the several tribes that inhabited the northeastern portion of the continent, some mythological monsters sharing similar traits to Genoskwa but having a different name are probably the same thing. He realized that the Iroquois Genoskwa, the Algonquin Chenu, the Achen of Innu mythology, and what is now a staple of supernatural horror in several media, the Wendigo, whose name comes from the Ojibwe language, but that has a great number of other transliterations in other tribes, are probably one and the same. What the Duke asked himself was, is it possible that the Wendigo myth has acquired supernatural traits later on, but was born out of a real-world, very dangerous biological being that has stayed hidden from modern society? The other, far more disturbing question he asked himself was, why, if he had seen that thing himself and knew it to be real, there were so many reports of regular Bigfoot and so few of this other variety? David Paulides, a former police officer turned investigator and writer, is the author of Missing 411, a series of books and, as of today, 3 movies, which delve into the thousands of cases of persons who go missing in the United States national parks. He later expanded the scope of his investigation to the whole world. This series has achieved considerable success, and although David Paulides is often referred to as conspiracy theorist, his work has highlighted, in my opinion, how many of these people vanish under very strange circumstances, and whenever their bodies are found, the dynamics of the disappearance result to be baffling, to say the least. He has also unearthed a very real problem: the fact that the US National Park Service did not keep a database of people who go missing in their parks. Whether this was by design or the result of negligence, we will probably never know. What I can say is that the Missing 411 series, without overtly providing a working theory to explain the mystery, did bring a full-blown anomaly into the public eye. The numbers and circumstances involved are truly hard to explain with conventional means, and this has led the paranormal community to formulate the hypothesis that, given that the majority of Bigfoot encounters are described as panic-inducing but rarely violent, there could perhaps be another cryptid whose diet consists only of meat, often human meat, and that is the culprit for most of the missing persons cases. The next logical step, of course, is to link the possible existence of the Genoskwa myth with this mystery. Could the Genoskwa, or Wendigo, be some kind of subarctic predator whose genetic lineage diverged from our own long before the apes and probably long before the Sasquatch, that has evolved bipedalism and a certain degree of intelligence independently, that established its environment in the northeastern part of the continent, and that has preyed on humans for hundreds, if not thousands of years? Contrary to its slightly less elusive neighbor, for which we have audio, photo and video evidence, as well as footprints, this hypothetical being has left no trace of itself beyond the memories etched in the brains of those who saw it and lived to tell. That is, until an image taken by a photographer at the regional park of Seven Chutes, or Seven Chutes in Quebec, Canada, made its way to the web in 2008. The photo was coupled with a short video of the photographer standing in the same spot for size comparison. The image has garnered a lot of attention and scrutiny because the object hidden in the greenery looks like a humanoid monkey with a protruding snout, the head and face reminiscent of baboons, holding a fresh kill under its arm. I don't need to point out that the park where this was taken is exactly in the area where the Genoskwa allegedly lived. Don't think I can make a probabilistic inference for the existence of this species, because unlike Bigfoot or the Nimerigar, whose historical and factual evidence I examined in this video, a single photograph and oral reports aren't enough to base such evaluation on. All I will say is that for all the reasons explained along this video, I consider the existence of an enormous bipedal and carnivorous baboon-like creature as plausible, and I think the general public in that area should be aware of the hypothetical danger whenever they venture in the outdoors. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you may consider subscribing to StrangeSpotting for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.